I'm so glad you're back, and I want to share today in this lesson for day 1 how God sees you. We are weary and graceless, desperately needing God, and we just are so graceless that we don't even accept the grace for ourselves. As little girls, we dreamed about being an adult. If you're anything like me, that's what I dreamed. And an adult was filled with glitter and promise. Our mothers believed in us and encouraged us to work towards our goals and our aspirations, the things that we wanted to do. You know, I wanted to be a nurse, and so my mom encouraged that. She made a little nurse's hat because they used to wear them then, and the cape and the whole thing. They didn't end up wearing now they just wear scrubs, right? They're really pretty though. So growing up isn't easy, and most of us think that we will do life better as an adult than our parents did. I thought that. I've blown it. I have not done as well as my parents. So we look forward to finishing school, and so that we can get on with our journey and get through life. We're always wanting something more, right? We don't want today, we want that day that's coming when we're going to do something special. So we want to be free of the restrictions, the rules, the guidance from our mothers who only define that most of us fall flat on our faces. I did. Then as an adult, once you're through college, or even during college, the grind starts. And we soon find that life brings disappointment and failures. We struggle with the overwhelm of mom life. I know I did. I just always did. But the thing that I ended up feeling was constantly that I wasn't enough. And as it turns out, because I've thought about this a lot, and I've read about this a lot, and I see what is being put out there in books and in webinars and in conventions and different things, and it's that we are enough, and it's like talking about what we actually have on the inside. And I don't have anything good on the inside of me. God didn't He created me to be good, but I have sin, and I am not enough. And, you know, I desperately need God, and I need God because He is enough. It's God that's enough, not me. And it's when I realize that and I start living like that and allow Him to indwell me and live through me that maybe my mess ups will be a little less. But I'm telling you, I messed up for years before I figured this out, and I was saved. So wherever you're at, whether you're a new Christian or you've been saved a long time, you can be messing up because you're living in your own strength and maybe buying the lie that the world is telling you and me that I am enough, when you deep down inside might feel like me that you're not enough. And it might be because of experiences that you had in life. Did you have a wonderful growing up years, or were they filled with imperfection and struggles and troubles and things like that? Whichever way you might answer, you probably imagined a brilliantly successful adulthood. So even if your life looked beautiful on the outside to others, there are probably things that have gone wrong on the inside, or the inside of your family. And an example of that is that I trained my children well. They could all behave. They could behave in church. I could have all of them sitting in church, or they could behave at home when I was homeschooling them. And it wasn't until later that I started to notice other things, and things weren't that perfect anymore. So here's some examples. Why do you think pregnancy can throw a girl into postpartum blues? There are many women who are despairing and depressed and disillusioned with what God has given them. It might be you experience this through your pregnancy and the deep feelings you have as you become a mom for the first time or second time or whatever, and you are, because your hormones are whacked out. I won't deny that. But sometimes in those times you can actually experience deeply what is in your heart anyway, and it kind of exposes things that maybe you didn't have the time to deal with. And your hormones kind of bring it to the surface in an ugly sort of way. And, so here we are, and we need to deal with this so that we can get on and discover how God wants us to be enough because He's in us. Backing up to 2019. Now, if you thought your life was perfect then, what on earth happened when suddenly 2020 is here and it's like a neat sounding year, and if you're like me, I had like things planned out and I had goals that I made, and then I am home for 3 months and there isn't any place to go except when I need to have food. And even though I stay at home a lot, it was a deep time of introspection and looking inside. And so even if you were looking at the events of 2020, which we are in right now, and I'm still living in that, but not having to stay home, you know what I'm talking about. And you might have dealt with some deep things during that time, and even now, as things are just not looking the same. So you might be finding this year is not panning out like you wanted, and it's bringing up some of those feelings of not being enough, because when you're home a lot, things happen. Maybe because your children are home too, and your husband, you've had like problems with each other. And I have experience with that, and I'm going to be teaching you some solutions for all those kind of things. As a woman, did you know that you are twice as likely to experience anxiety as your husband or your brother or your father? It's just something, unfortunately, that us women have to deal with. I used to wonder why one of my grandmothers was so worried that I would fall out of her upstairs window. She was afraid of running across the street, and I was just like, I was 15. But now I understand that, because the older I've gotten, I've experienced anxiety as well. Not in the same ways, but actually, one of my kids, when he was 5, did fall out the window. It was onto some flower beds and stuff. He was okay, but it was kind of scary. And it was because our sofa had to be, we had to bring up a sofa from downstairs because we had water issues. So we had a pit along the window, and where normally you might not put a sofa there. And since then, I have never put a sofa in front of the windows or anything that would cause a child to be able to fall out of the window. And anyway, everything turned out fine. But, I have different anxieties than my grandmother, but I understand what she was going through. So that if you are experiencing like worry, despair, depression, disillusionment from your life, or maybe you just collapse at the end of the night on the sofa and you are exhausted. And if any of those kind of things, or even if you haven't experienced it yet, or it's difficulty on your job, or maybe it's your relationships, maybe it's past things from growing up, something your parents told you or that your husband tells you. It may not even be, you might actually know it's not really that big a deal, but you still end up feeling like you're not enough. It could be with a gentle husband, gentle father. It's amazing how we come up with these feelings of we're not enough. And we just, whether or not we have good reasons to do that, we're women. And that's just it, right? So if you wake up almost each morning thinking you're not enough, and that goes with you through the day, then I want to reassure you again that you're in the right place, and we can learn how to trust God better, to take away the worry and the despair and the depression, whatever it is you're facing, or the nothing that you're facing, that we just are women and we end up with these feelings somehow. So I'm so thankful that we become friends, and we are kind of friends, even through the internet. I have some of my best friends that I met over the internet, and I can help you because I have learned these things that I can share with you. So when I was younger, I had wished, like really, really wished, for an older woman that could come alongside me and could encourage me and mentor me and stuff like that. And I never found that woman. I wanted to learn to crochet, and I couldn't find that woman for that. I didn't know how to do many things with cooking. I think the only thing I knew how to cook was potatoes and chicken when I got married. Actually, I didn't know how to cook either one, because when I was 18, I tried to make mashed potatoes by taking the handheld mixer and mixing them when they were raw. Now go figure. And then I had no idea the first time I cooked chicken in my little teeny apartment downstairs in a garage. I mean, it was literally in a garage. And I was shocked that it took more than 10 minutes. I don't know what I was thinking. And it wasn't that I never cooked. I guess I didn't cook chicken. So here we go. Lots of things to learn, and we can do this. So I'd like to be that friend for you, because I have so many things that I can share with you in this course and the courses that I'm going to do after this. So it's not that I've arrived, because I have not. The last few weeks through the pandemic lockdown, I went through a heaviness that grieved from things that grieved my heart so deeply. And it's through my imperfection that I desperately searched for Jesus and found help that I needed each day. And I got through that because I was consistent in my reading of my Bible and spending time with Jesus. And so I just want to remember, we're looking at how God sees you. That's all the ways that we see ourselves. But God looks at me and you differently than how I see myself. And despite my sins and my failures, God looks at you and gives you grace, just like I've learned that He's given me grace. And what we've done is we've expected ourselves to behave as only our Creator can. We expect ourselves to be perfect, and we're imperfect. We just are. And so through this course, you'll learn about grace and how to deal with those desperate emotions that drag you down by placing your hope in Jesus. And you'll have, I hope you downloaded the 5-day, the workbook that goes with this course, and because it'll help you to place your hope in Jesus and to find grace and to learn how to live in that grace. Okay, so who do you say you are? It is bad enough that you don't think you're enough, right? So if you were to write down a list of who you are, what would you include on that list? Most women are all about the same and would list negative things. Like, my nose is too long, my hair is lifeless, I'm too fat or I'm too skinny, my hands are too big, they're too wrinkled, the blood vessels are too big on my hands, and my feet are weird. Oh, look at my toes. And my family is dysfunctional as all get out, and not like the Browns. They are perfect. And my house is not beautiful enough. And I wish I lived in the country, or you might say, I wish I lived in the suburbs or in the city. Or you fill in the blank is not to my liking. And so we end up feeling we're not enough because we're looking at the things that are temporal, that will only last down here on this earth, and this little speck that we are in the Milky Way. And no, I'm not talking about the Milky Way candy bars. So this list isn't too far off considering we have only met online, right? Tell me in the comments. There's comments under this lesson, and if I'm spot on or not. Okay, so take a look at the list you made. Pause the video, go to the workbook, fill out the list for yourself and how it applies to you, and tell me where the average woman gets ideas like this. Okay? We get ideas from Barbie, right? That's probably why my mom never got me a Barbie. I had a Tambi doll, which you probably have no idea what that is, but she wasn't built quite as voluptuous and everything. And my mom knew that I wouldn't be like that. I am sure she knew that. We might get ideas from a magazine like CoverGirl, which I wouldn't advise you read. There's better ones, right? And you might get your ideas from Facebook, or how about Pinterest? Pinterest is so visual, and you will see whatever it is you're looking at that's far better than you can do. It's just picture perfect, right? And as women, we are constantly comparing ourselves to the opinions or the actions of others. Playing with Barbie when you were a little girl might not have helped so much. And besides, you're playing, she has a boyfriend instead of a husband, and it just sets you up to be unsuccessful in your relationships, because what we play happens to have a heavy effect on how we play out our lives. So, not entirely, because of the grace of God working in your life, right? So, it's not that we need to do anything like Barbie to beautify ourselves when we get up each morning, but I would advise that you do something to work with what God's given you to make the beauty that's inside of you come out. And just because you woke up looking like a hot mess doesn't mean that it's God's idea or acceptance. I mean, there is nothing wrong with putting some mascara or some eyeshadow on. I choose to wear eyeshadow that like blends into my face most of the time. You can hardly tell it's there. And I put mascara on. And for years I felt I shouldn't be doing that. And I didn't wear lip gloss. And, you know, it just, there was nothing I could do, and I was crying after I cried when I washed my face to perk things up again. And there's nothing wrong with that. It would be focusing on that too much. That would be wrong. And just going to an extreme where you're focusing on the outside, but we're not doing that. We're focusing on the inside, right? So taking care of yourself physically and spiritually goes a long way in helping you feel the value of by God, that God values you, and there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, so who does God say you are? The enemy of your soul wants you to be pulled down to your negative self-talk. And I thought I didn't do this, and I'm realizing more and more that I have negative things going on in my head. You know, that I can't do this. I can't do this course. I can't talk without reading it and without my script that I planned out. And I can't make it natural. I stutter over my words. It doesn't come natural to me. Those things go through my head. And that I'm not pretty. And my husband lately, he's been telling me all the time, and I never respond right to that, because for years I didn't believe it. Because when I was growing up, the girls when I was 14 or so used to say, "Ew, you're so skinny." So you know, opposite of fat, you get this mental, and I was. But nobody told me that it would be all right in the long run, because you can gain a little weight and it's okay. But even if you do, you're okay because God made you that way. He made you special. So we compare ourselves to other women by doing things like that, and pick out somebody that we think is so beautiful when we're really all right, just however we are. And maybe like I said a minute ago, it could be how your father or your husband treated you. It may be how you think they're treating you. And it may not be that bad, and you may know that, but you still somehow, Satan causes things to get distorted, so you end up thinking that. So I don't know what you've gone through, but even if you've been told that you're ugly and that you are not successful or you can't do anything right, you know what? You can, and you can learn through this course that God wanted you to do something special in your life. So how a person talks to you can leave an impact on your life that has a devastating effect on your heart and soul that reaches far into the future. It's very hard to break that stuff. But because of God and what he did for you through Jesus, you have a choice. You don't have to stay in that place that you're at. You are valued by God, and I can't emphasize that enough and say that enough to you, because I can imagine that if you signed up for this course, you struggle with that in some way. Did you catch that? Did it sink in? You are valued by God, for you were bought with a price. Therefore, glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's. That's from 1 Corinthians 6:20. Okay, so you are highly valued, and I'm going to quickly breeze through these. These are verses. I'm not going to read the whole verse, just like what the point was in the verse. These will be in your workbook, so you can see them there. Okay, so don't worry if you can't catch everything. Okay, you are highly valued. Genesis 2:7. He breathed the breath of life into you. Genesis 1:27. He created you in his own image. Psalm 139:16. He saw your unformed substance, in your mother's womb. Psalm 139:13. He knit you together in your mother's womb. Matthew 10:30. He knows how many hairs are on your head and how many you lost after each baby. Psalm 139:14. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. Matthew 10:31. You are more valuable than many sparrows. You are more valuable than many sparrows. Just a simple little bird, that we see all the time. Psalm 8:6-8 and Genesis 1:26-28. He gave you dominion over the beasts, the birds, and the fish. Psalm 8:5 and Genesis 1:26. He has crowned you with glory and honor as a pinnacle, something special. And final act on the 6th day of creation. You are highly valued by God. Did you look up those verses? Stop the video, go to the workbook, and do that. Okay? Or do it after you're done. Recently, I told you that I was in an extremely low place in my life during the lockdown. Something happened that deeply distressed me, brought back some memories, and I was devastated. And it took me back to other situations as I raised my children, where earlier I had lost my joy and had gained it and got that back, and I had been walking for 5 or 6 years in joy and gladness and in Jesus, and that experience took me back, and I lost the joy that God had given me over the past 6 years, and went back to a place of melancholy where I had not been in all those years. And so, am I stuck there? No, because now I have the tools to learn how to get beyond that, and that's what I'm giving you. Even though those Bible verses and that activity to work through where you put down the things that you don't like about yourself, those things will help you to dig deeper into yourself so that you can see who God created you to be. So looking up those verses that I shared with you helped to get my perspective back on God, who values me despite all my failures and sin. God loves me. God knows that I was going to sin. And it doesn't matter. I mean, I was hit for a while with it this morning. Probably because I was going to do this. And Satan just wanted to accuse me. And yes, he's right. I can be accused of those things. But I am washed and covered with the blood of Jesus. He has now given me who I am. And he is enough because I'm not enough. That is so different than what the world tells you. The world tells you you are enough because you are enough. And I am enough because Jesus has saved me. It isn't about living perfectly because none of us can. We can learn where our values lie, and it's in God and not at all in us. So thank you for joining me for this and listening to the end. And I hope you do the workbook, and I will see you in the next lesson tomorrow. Okay. Love you.